Hello everyone, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns.
Wait,
What is it, Chiaki?
you look different. Did you change your hair?
Why yes, thank you for noticing, Chiaki. You're a good girl.
Huh, neat. Carry on.
Well, anyway, welcome to Zen Movies, where I take a look at one of the numerous different films in my collection. Subsequently, it's time to introduce a new segment for the Bun Squad entitled Licensed Media Limbo. When it comes to licensed products, there's a stigma in place that just doesn't seem to want to go away. Movies and video games based on large franchises are looked down on with disdain or fear because they do tend to be awful a large portion of the time. For example, the Terminator Salvation game is a jumbo jet-sized piece of crap, and the Resident Evil films are just plain awful, even if I do find them a guilty pleasure. With that in mind, I do my best not to form biases and keep an open mind when it comes to licensed media. I place the product into a limbo state in my mind and wait to pass judgment until I've consumed the media. Because of this, I've found some overlooked gems such as Captain America, Super Soldier, and Ben 10 Omniverse, games that would normally be overlooked by others but work on their own merits. However, today is a bit different. Today we're taking a look at the Lego Movie, a film that was universally praised by critics and the film-going public, even though it is based on a franchise. Let's dive into the Lego Movie and see if that assessment still holds up today as we place this film into licensed media limbo. One thing I should make abundantly clear before we begin is that I simply adore Legos. When I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch much TV or play too many video games because my parents thought it would rot my brain. So here I am today reviewing video games and other media. Funny how life works out, isn't it? Anyway, I had to find different uses for my time back then, so I spent it making puzzles, building huge towers with Kinects, and making huge scale models with Legos. Granted, I was never very good at making stuff without the instructions. I once tried to build a working chair out of Lego parts, and it collapsed under my weight easily, so I decided not to do it again because I didn't want to destroy my Lego pieces. Instead, I focused on the larger models, such as my giant Lego Yoda and the head of Darth Maul, which I still have. I loved the big sets, but they were expensive as all hell, meaning I was more likely to get Kinect sets for Christmas. Even though I don't build much these days outside of Lego Dimensions, which is a ton of fun, and it's a shame that they stopped making sets for it, I still have a huge appreciation for the Lego craft. It's just so relaxing to build something or see something being built. Every time I go to the Lego store in the Mall of America and see the creations on display, I fall in love all over again. It's great.
Hey, Mommy, what are Legos?
They're the tiny pieces of building blocks that you keep trying to eat, Missy. Can you please stop doing that? Also, can you please stop trying to escape the house whenever I open the door to pick up food deliveries? I can't keep chasing you down the hallway when I'm carrying food. It's messy.
No fair, Mommy. You never let me have any fun. I can't knock over your soda, which I'm totally gonna do later, by the way. I can't go on adventures in the hallway of interesting smells, and now I can't eat whatever those Lego things are. This is so unfair.
To be fair, Mother, you haven't exactly explained what Legos are. Sure, your audience may know what they are, but she certainly doesn't. Then again, she can't tell the difference between soda and alcohol, so that's not surprising.
Can't too.
Perhaps an explanation would help young Kana refrain from eating inanimate objects.
Bite me.
Fair point, Chiaki. It just so happens that I know the perfect person to help explain Legos. Hey, Sonny Jim, want to give me a hand here? Also, what did you think of the movie?
Oh, true-ish. Hey Zenith, Lego movie? I did enjoy me some of the Lego movie, but, this stuff back here? It's not mine. It belongs to my other roommate.
Oh. Well, can Key tell us then?
Let's find out. 1, 2... Hey, the roommate! I have a name, Jim. Congratulations on your accomplishment. So, here's a questionable for you. You like Lego, right? A little bit. Do you think you're up to do a little history of Lego for Zenith's audience? And Zenith's cats? Fine. For the cats. Originally founded in 1934, Danish company Lego got its start making wooden toys, as was the style at the time. But they were one of the earliest companies to really push plastic as a toy-making material, which most people saw as cheap and fragile. Lego fought that perception by insisting on using the highest quality plastic available and the most precise engineering, with the company motto being, "Only the best is good enough." Interlocking toy bricks had been around since 1939, notably from British toy company Kittycraft, a company eventually consumed and disavowed by Lego, and Lego's owners saw an opportunity in that style of brick. They released the automatic binding brick in 1949, which by 1953 had become the extensively engineered Lego bricks still in use today. Durable and versatile, the simple building block is still the fundamental core of the play pattern, even as the sets get more complex. There's been several thousand different Lego elements developed over the last half century. I tried adding them up once and gave up. It's a lot. Speaking of centuries, Lego broke into licensed toys in 1999 with, of course, Star Wars, and has made mad bank on kits based on popular media, and occasionally not so popular media. With sets for all age groups, with a ton of different themes and styles, over the decades they've become the biggest toy company in the world, with their own retail stores and freaking theme parks across the globe, and at this point, 4 major motion pictures, the first of which you are about to watch a review of. And now you know the rest of the story.
Thanks so much, Greg. I really do appreciate the help. I can take it from here. And Sonny Jim, try not to eat his Lego builds. He works really hard on those, and they look great.
I cannot, in good conscience, make any promises to that effect.
Okay then, Kana. Please promise me you won't follow his example. Legos are toys, not food.
I like the yellow one. He's fuzzy like me. If he can eat Legos, then so can I, Mommy.
I know. I'll go stop her from eating your Legos. Kana? I swear, if you don't stop, I'll take away your emergency snacks.
You wouldn't.
Anyway, let's get back to the Lego movie. With all that in mind, when the Lego movie was first announced, and we started seeing teasers on the internet, I was cautiously optimistic, but I wasn't expecting all that much. I'd been burned by franchises before, with Percy Jackson and Aragon being some of the worst offenders. Seriously, did the creative team even read those books beforehand? Just, Even still, my best friend Isaiah was super excited to see it, but nobody in our group of friends really expected it to be as good as it ended up being. We were expecting something decent, or possibly something we could riff on like we did every year with Twilight, but this film ended up being far more than any of us bargained for. Not only was it an excellent movie in its own right, but much like Kingsman, it ended up being one of my top films of the decade. Let's dive into the Lego Movie and see how this film grabbed my attention more than most licensed films. I think the first thing to discuss when it comes to the Lego Movie is the overarching plot and how it played with our expectations. The Lego Movie revolves around an ordinary construction worker named Emmett Brakowski, played by Chris Pratt, who just wants to fit in with everyone else. He follows the instructions and does everything he's supposed to do, but by doing so he ends up blending into the crowd and gets ignored by those around him. Deep down, Emmett knows that he's lonely, but he just doesn't know how to be creative like others around him. That is, until one day where he encounters a mysterious young girl sneaking into the construction site. While initially inclined to report the girl, Emmett refrains because he's smitten by her appearance. He moves in closer to talk to her, but as he does so, he falls deep into the construction site where he finds the legendary piece of resistance. It is prophesied that whoever finds the piece of resistance will become the Special, the only one who can stop the evil Lord Business, save the realm, and become the most interesting, most important person of all times. All of this is true because it rhymes. Of course, Emmett yearns to become more important than he is, so he touches the piece of resistance and gets a vision of a giant hand along with the prophecy being repeated directly into his mind. He passes out and wakes up in an interrogation cell where Bad Cop pumps him for information on the piece of resistance, and Good Cop, his other half, attempts to make him feel comfortable, much to Bad Cop's irritation. Before they can get any information out of Emmett, the mysterious girl from earlier rescues him, and they go on a wild chase throughout the city before escaping into a hidden tunnel that transports them to another realm. The girl introduces herself as Wild Style and explains that Lord Business, now known as President Business, is responsible for this. Once they used to be free to build whatever they wished, but Business put up these walls between the realms and rounded up nearly all of the master builders. It's up to Emmett to meet up with Vitruvius, the old blind man who made the prophecy, gather up the remaining master builders, and stop Lord Business before he uses the Craggle to freeze everyone in place permanently. From this point forward, I will be discussing spoilers for the Lego Movie. If you wish to avoid spoilers, please go to this time code. Otherwise, it's time to discuss why I love this movie so much. Personally, I think it's better if you see this film without knowing the twists going in. For everyone else, you have been warned. Now, the key thing about the plot of the Lego Movie is how it sets up your expectations going in and completely turns them around by the end of the film. It starts off making you think that Emmett is content with his lot in life, even being happy to buy extremely overpriced coffee from the coffee chain, which is probably a reference to Starbucks and their overpriced wares.
You're damn right Starbucks is overpriced. It's horrible coffee. Buy Caribou instead, you hipsters. The only good thing about Starbucks is their peppermint mocha, and that's even better at Caribou too. And another thing...
Shortly afterwards, we learn that Emmett is secretly lonely and yearns for something more, starting a chain of bait and switch. We are led to believe that this is a tired, chosen one narrative at first, but then we see that Emmett clearly is not the Special because he has the creativity of a teaspoon, and later still, we find that Vitruvius made the prophecy up in order for the legend of the special to inspire someone to become the special. So instead of everything being written in the stars, like prophecies usually go, Emmett created his own legend because he was inspired to do so, and I personally find that very awesome. In essence, this is a deconstruction of the hero's journey. We're given a hero with no talents whatsoever, and we follow him as he finds a way to save the day through his own power with only inspiration to guide him. The best example of this is the speech that he makes to the Master Builders, where he deconstructs the hero's speech by only saying negative things about himself and how he's the least qualified person for the job. It's such a breath of fresh air to see these tired and worn out cliches being not only subverted, but given new life as they prove that you can do the hero's journey without following any of them. You don't need a dusty old prophecy or a destined hero to do this story. You just need someone who wants to do great things, and that's what this plot does extremely well. Taking our ideas of what a hero narrative is usually about and flipping them on their head to create something unique. It's not just the main story that's all about subversion, though. These characters also take everything you are expecting and throw them in the trash to create characters that are funny but also rather relatable. Emmett is a stand-in for the audience, a character who doesn't believe he has anything special about him, but in the end, his unique brand of thinking saves the day. The double-decker couch is an idea only he could have, and by allowing Emmett to build in ways only he can build, he inspires the rest of this LEGO world to build their own unique creations to save the day as well. Wildstyle, portrayed by Elizabeth Banks, is the other side of that coin. She's a master builder with loads of talent and wanted so desperately to be the special herself, but has to realize at the end of the day, there is no special. We are who we believe ourselves to be, and by realizing that, she allows Emmett to save the day. Wildstyle represents every brooding teenager in high school who wants to be more than they actually are, blind to the fact that their talent is enough. She's the character that feels the most like she could be the protagonist of the story, but she isn't, and she has to come to terms with that fact, while also grasping that she has her own specific role to play in this journey. When she finally admits to Emmett that her real name is Lucy, and that she kept changing her name because she wanted to be the special, that is when their plan starts to succeed because she's being the person she was always meant to be. I love this message and how it simultaneously says greatness can come from anywhere, but also that everyone has their own greatness inside them that they need to come to terms with. I think this is a message that all teenagers need to hear. The rest of the cast all add something different to the table, although their roles aren't quite as big as Emmett and Lucy's in the grand scheme of things. Lego Batman, voiced by Will Arnett, is a deconstruction of Batman as a character, presenting him as an angsty teenager who revels in brooding and being a punk. He certainly has skills, but when we are presented with the theme song he wrote, with lyrics such as "Darkness, no parents," we can see that much of his persona is a facade he creates in order to feel better about himself. Much of the comedy with his character is centered around how self-centered he is and how he has to get over himself, which I think works for the character. Vitruvius, played by Morgan Freeman, is a deconstruction of the old blind mystic stereotype. He presents himself as this wise old man who knows what needs to be done and can supposedly see into the future, But this again is a facade. In reality, he's just a hippie who wears a tie-dye shirt and sandals under his robes, is actually blind most of the time, especially that one time where he's tasked with being the lookout and looks straight at a wall with his binoculars, and makes up all his prophecies. However, even with this facade, he has plenty of skill, and his made-up prophecy is what saved the day in the end. The key point here is that while these characters do serve as parodies for these tropes, they also act as fully realized characters with story arcs, faults, and strengths. They aren't just caricatures meant for a quick laugh, and while they can be quite humorous in their deconstruction, the creators made sure to also make them behave like real people and make us relate to them as people, something that many creators forget to do. Speaking of humor, the Lego Movie is quite possibly one of my favorite comedies to date because of how masterfully it constructs its jokes and how witty the dialogue is. At the same time, as I often say, humor is the most subjective form of entertainment, and what I find funny won't always gel with everyone. What I personally find enjoyable about the humor in the Lego Movie is the childlike nature of the writing. Everything is presented like a child playing with their Legos and making things up as they go. There are real-world objects littered throughout the film, but they're given childish mystical names such as the Sword of Exact Zero, which is an X-Acto knife, the Cloak of Bandaid, which is a band-aid, the Orb of Titulist, which is a golf ball, and the Fleece-Crested Scepter of Q-Tip, used with the Polish remover of Nail, which is a Q-tip with nail polish remover on the tip. These objects are referred to as artifacts, and given all the importance of the Holy Grail in Indiana Jones. To me, the joy of this film is the same joy I had as a kid playing with my Legos, making up stories, and just having fun. That's a large part of why I love it, and why I love the humor involved in it. I think a large portion of the audience can get into the humor because it puts them back into their childhood shoes, and it is just fun to watch. This, of course, leads into the final twist of the film. Now, I already made a huge spoiler warning earlier in this review, but spoiler warning is at omega levels at this point. Okay, so near the end of the film, Emmett falls off the top of the infinitieth story of Lord Business's skyscraper and goes through a portal into the real world where he meets a child named Finn and also the man upstairs. The man upstairs is played by Will Ferrell, who also voices Lord Business throughout the film. The reason for this becomes obvious as we soon see that the Lego world we've been seeing throughout the entire film is another dimension created from the imagination of both the man upstairs and Finn. When the man upstairs was forced to grow up, his worldview became more cynical, and he refused to let Finn play with his Legos because he perceived it as destroying his perfectly good Lego models. At one point, he even states that Legos are not a toy, even though Finn points out that they're made for ages 8 and up. The entire sequence completely redefines what this film has been all about. Now the childish dialogue and writing make even more sense because it's based on the actual imaginings of a child. The film takes on a new metatextual light as you begin to see how each character was thought up from the child's perspective and how it related to the real world. Lord Business is how Finn sees his father, and the Resistance represents Finn's desire to just make up his own creations. I love this revelation, and every time I watch the film, I think of something new and how it relates to this twist. For example, one of the main TV shows in Bricksburg is Where Is My Pants, which contains a single punchline that keeps recurring throughout the show because the main character can't find his pants. That's the entire joke. This is something a child would find hilarious over and over, so it makes sense in context, but you can see why an adult would find it annoying and use it to keep the masses in check. In addition to this, the main song of the film is Everything Is Awesome, performed by various different artists. To a child, this song is all about how it's cool to just work together as a team to be awesome. I can certainly see a child jamming out to this song a ton. However, looking at the lyrics as an adult, it seems to be much more cynical and keeping the masses complacent. The message as an adult is to stick to the status quo and not to stand out whatsoever. This film perfectly understands childlike wonder and how a kid would view the world and not care about overpriced coffee, but also completely understands the cynical nature of growing up and becoming jaded as you find a job and see the reality of the world. That's really the biggest strength of this film, because it doesn't take one side or the other. It presents both sides as equally valid, and in the end, while Lord Business does get his comeuppance, he also is a relatable character and gets redeemed as well. Overall, the plot, subplot, and metatextual subplot all work incredibly well, and I have a hard time finding fault in this layered narrative. There are some who don't understand the fact that Emmett can move in the real world, but the way the creators explained it in the commentary is that both the real world and the Lego world are on different dimensional planes, and Emmett briefly crossed over during that sequence. After all, while it is created from a child's imagination, there's a lot that happens in the Lego world that is not translated to the real world at the end, and I think there is a good distinction between the two. So yeah, the plot is fantastic, and I would highly recommend the film based on this alone. I already talked at length about the characters, since a lot of their development relates to the plot, but can we take a minute to talk about just how star-studded this cast is? Will Ferrell, Morgan Freeman, and Will Arnett I already mentioned, but we also have Jonah Hill as Green Lantern, Channing Tatum as Superman, Shaquille O'Neal as himself, Keegan-Michael Key as Foreman Jim, and Liam I Will Find You Neeson as Good Cop, Bad Cop, and Pa Cop, effortlessly switching between voices on the fly. I am simply floored by how much talent this film has behind it. All of the actors turn in fantastic performances, especially Neeson, because goddamn, he just does a fantastic job switching between voices mid-take. And trust me, this is very hard to do. I do it for my show. Not easy to do. Seriously, check out the behind-the-scenes footage of him doing the voices for the characters. It's just a lot of fun. In terms of presentation, the Lego Movie hits it out of the park once again because the animation is simply mind-blowingly good. This film looks like it was made in stop motion, but this was actually animated using CGI by the same studio who did the special effects for The Matrix. That actually makes a lot of sense, considering the Master Builders use bullet time, Emmett is very similar to Neo, and Bad Cop is very similar to Agent Smith. Emmett even gets Master Builder vision at the end after seeing the man upstairs, which is similar to the architect. Dear God, this is The Matrix for kids. Note to self, review the Matrix films and games in the future. Tell no one. Anyway, the interesting thing about the way this film was animated is that every single Lego brick was individually created and placed in order to increase the level of detail. Everything that was animated comes from an actual Lego build, and that attention to detail is, to me, what sells it. Look at the Lego water and how the waves are animated. Look at the individual bricks used in the shower. Look at all the different outfits that they give the characters. As of this writing, it has been 6 years since the film came out, and I am still in awe at how beautiful this all is. Not only that, but the chase scenes and fight scenes are so fast and fluid, but they have this stop motion frame skip going on that adds to the Lego sensation, and they even added in brick blur to aid in the illusion of fast builds. It's just so damn good. The fight scenes are glorious to behold, especially seeing the individual Lego laser bricks fly past instead of bullets. The attention to detail is flawless, and I can find no fault here. As for music, the score is a lot of fun, but a lot of it is background music that you won't necessarily notice. The tracks are representative of the places where Emmett finds himself throughout the film, and while they are catchy, I don't find myself attached to much of the soundtrack. At the same time, Everything Is Awesome is still stuck in my head all these years later, and I can't get it out. It will never leave. Why won't it leave? Overall, the Lego Movie is a damn fun time for both kids and adults. I think kids will have a fun time enjoying the jokes, the action, and the characters, while the adults will be able to see all the layers of this build and appreciate it all the more. For the first film on licensed media Limbo, this is an absolute win of the highest level. The animation, story, characters, and just about everything else are treated with such respect and attention to detail that I just can't help but love it. I give the Lego Movie my highest recommendation and a super stamp of approval from both Kana and Chiaki. It is just that good, and I hope that if you were hesitant before because this is a licensed property, you aren't now. Now, the Lego Movie was a box office hit, making back $468 million from its $65 million budget, which is a huge win in my book. With that in mind, a sequel was inevitable. In 2019, we received the Lego Movie 2, which I still need to see, but from everything I hear, it is quite good. We also got the Lego Batman movie, which was all kinds of awesome and tons of fun, although not quite as meta as this film was, and the Lego Ninjago movie, which I hear wasn't quite as good, but I haven't seen yet. We will cover all of these films in the future. However, there was also another property created in the wake of the Lego Movie, the Lego Movie video game, created for PS3 and PS4. Stay tuned in the next few weeks, because the next episode of Should You Complete This will cover both versions of this game as we place it into licensed media limbo. The Lego Movie is distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures, and as such, it is quite easy to find at any movie store. I found my copy at FYE for $15, which is an outright steal, considering the quality of the film and the extras included. The Blu-ray contains a bunch of behind-the-scenes features, a commentary track that is both highly entertaining and very informative, and a bunch of other smaller features that just add to the overall package. Still, for $15, you should add this film to your collection immediately. It is one of my favorite films of all time, topping even Kingsman with just how much I enjoy it on a personal level. Anyway, I think you've heard me gush about this film for long enough. I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that you too can join the Bun Squad. my legion of cute fluffy bunnies that interact with my videos, and be sure to hit that bell so that you can get notified of every single new video. Have a good one, everybody.